All right, so let's make some content here with Teddy. So, Teddy, we always like to break it down with everyone. It's kind of what I was asking you before. Break it down, the Hodgdon family history in racing there, starting back with your dad going to Danbury. Tell us that one again.
Yeah, so racing in my family really started with my father. My grandfather actually is in, he did a lot of motorcycles and airplanes growing up. He flew for Eastern. Unfortunately, he died in the late 80s, so I never got to meet him. But through my dad, I got to hear a lot of stories. And he was in the AMA Motorcycle Hall of Fame.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
really?
so he's big into Indians and all that stuff. But my dad, when he was growing up, he would go to
Hold on
Danbury.
1 second. Your grandfather's in the AMA Hall of Fame?
I don't know if it's my I think it's my great.
Is that motorcycles?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the American Motocross Association.
My great grandfather, I believe.
Wow, that's pretty
Really?
cool, man. That's pretty cool.
He was big into Indian motorcycles.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know
That's
much
real-
about
That's
it.
really cool.
I wish my dad was here.
Yeah,
to
that's
help
neat.
tell
I'm going
that,
to pick
but
his brain
it's-
about it at Star.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's
Is your
got all
dad
the
into
info.
motorcycles now or not at all?
No, he had a couple Harleys growing up and stuff, and he would always go to Bike Week.
Yeah.
Down in Daytona, but he sold it off to get the legend car.
Yeah.
So when my dad was finally of age, probably around, I don't know, 10 to 12 years old, he would start going to Danbury because he grew up in Ridgefield, the race arena, and he would go up in turn 4, get dropped off by my grandmother, his mom.
Yeah.
And he would get dropped off there, watch the races. It was always crazy. They would take forever. There'd be a million cautions. The night would drag on forever. And then he'd go over to the local ice cream stand at Marcus Dairy across the street, and he'd grab a milkshake and call his mom on the payphone and tell her, "Hey, the races are done. Come pick me up." And
Wow.
so that's what caught him the bug. So he was always into airplanes and aeronautics with my grandfather and his grandfather around being in airplanes forever. So he would he went to school at Embry-Riddle down in Daytona, right across the street from
From the racetrack?
from the speedway there.
Yeah.
But while his time was there, he started messing around with enduro cars and just buying cars in the junkyard and going to New Smyrna and racing.
Oh, nice.
So once he started doing that and saw he was doing good, he picked up an old Pinto and built that up, and then he
so
went
that's
to late
interesting
models
because I think of you guys go to New Smyrna quite a bit.
yeah.
So there's been a long connection with that track.
Yep, and so when he was racing late models and IMCA mods and stuff, that's where he met my mom.
Oh, wow.
She lives 2 streets over from the New Smyrna Speedway, over on Airport Road.
Oh,
Which
yeah.
It's lucky enough when we go down there, that's a place to stay and meet all the family and stuff to see them again. So it's super cool to see them.
Oh, so it's like a little family vacation. When you go down there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll go
That's
down.
neat.
We'll go down early and just hang out with them the week
cool.
before, and then we'll go race. And
Yeah.
they always come up in the stands and stuff, and it's super cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So he was racing. He did IMCA modifieds down there. He'd run Orlando Speed World on Fridays and New Smyrna on Saturdays, and then he did a little bit of the Slim Jim All Pro Tour. Racing with like Jeff Green, Joe Nemechek, all that stuff.
That's cool.
nice.
That your dad did that?
Yeah, he did that for a couple of years. I think.
Oh,
it was
he's like a boss.
92.
Yeah, well,
Oh, my man is like a boss.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He'd run with his crew chief, good friend Keith. He used to race in the All Pro Tour, and
Was George May with him?
he was there for a little bit. I can't remember what years.
Oh,
but
George! All he ever did was talk about your dad.
Every time I meet George, it's great to see him. I know he's with he loves Brody.
Oh, he loves Brody,
yeah.
but it was always when we were growing up. I never knew who Teddy Hodgdon was, but you'd be like, oh, yeah, I was down in Florida. I used to work with Teddy Hodgdon, and I'm like, who the hell is Teddy Hodgdon? Right? But today is different. It's really cool to connect all the dots. I didn't even know that your dad did all that stuff.
Yeah, such a small world.
Yeah.
When he ran late models at or it might have been modifieds. Anyway, he would run Orlando and then New Smyrna, and he won Orlando and New Smyrna 1 week, and then he doubled up again, so he won 4 in a row, and then won at Orlando, and was leading for 6 in a row at New Smyrna until he blew up. So that was kind of his heyday.
Wow.
He was doing good at that, and then eventually he finished up his schooling at Embry-Riddle, married my mom, and got a job up at IBM in Westchester, and he moved to Danbury, and then had me. So
Wow.
that's where it kind of started.
You have
So
brothers and sisters? You're only child?
I have one sister.
Okay.
Hannah. She's 17 months younger than me. So
Wow.
1 grade.
It's like my brother.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty much. We both graduated college last year. We're really close.
Where'd you go to
it's
college?
I went to at WestCon.
Oh, okay.
It allowed me to race more.
Yeah, right.
I had opportunities to go somewhere else, but you only live once, so.
Oh, yeah.
One-
Hell
one
yeah,
go
man.
racing, so
Right.
I live that every day. I
Yep.
believe
You
it.
just
Exactly.
graduated this year?
Last year.
Oh, last year.
Last
Okay.
year,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
No
So-
pilots, no flying for
No,
you?
that's been a topic of discussion between me and my dad. I want to pursue my privates, but my
for
privates
flying.
For flying.
So your
yes, but-
mechanics, is it mechanics for planes or is it?
No, I'm at a like a heavy duty truck and trailer repair shop right now. I had that job right after the pandemic.
Yeah, so you must have a kind of a good gig there with them. I mean,
Yeah, no, that we have a good family connection, and it's just it's a good local job. They've sponsored my race car for a long time. So
Yeah, what is the company called?
Ness Automotive.
oh yeah,
Yeah, we get along well.
that's
So,
great, man.
So anyway, back to the racing. I was growing up, they would always have the NASCAR races on, back in its heyday, and we would we'd watch it every Sunday night, just having a good time. And then obviously the bug got to me. It was like, hey Dad, I want to go racing, whatever. So we ended up going to see the Wild Thing karts on Monday night. When it must have been 6 because I started when I was 7. So I got Wade Gagner, the owner at the time. He had one rental cart that he would give to kids to try out to see if they would like it at the time. And I was 7 years old, didn't have a clue what I was doing. It was terrible, but I had the biggest smile on my face.
Right?
And I was like, Dad, I want to do this really bad. So I was very fortunate to be in the spot that I was to be able to do that, and we got a cart, and we ended up starting from there.
So how many years did you do the carts?
I did 6 years of Wild Things. We did 4 years of the 7 to 11 aged, which are the Tiger Sprints, and then we moved up to the Junior Outlaws for 2 years.
Wow.
Won 4 championships, a bunch of wins. Just going around the area. We picked up a champ cart my last year in 2013, and we did Pomfret, Twin State, and Route 106, and hit a bunch of places that we wanted to go to.
Yeah.
So that was fun trying to get my feet wet. And what a bunch of the guys that were going from karts, they went straight to SK Lights. And I was just old enough not to go into a NLARO, but we always thought that I needed something with not a lot of tire and a lot of power if I wanted to continue. To learn throttle control or learn steering control. So that's when we picked up the Legend car.
You went to the perfect division for
that. It was
that.
the perfect place for it. Because that taught me a lot of things that I still relate to now. It's the perfect stepping stone in order to be a great oval driver.
Yeah.
So I did that for 4 years. We started out at Bethel Motor Speedway over in White Mountain, New York.
New York, yep.
Yep. Perfect size Legends track. Small, boring quarter mile. I mean, they try and run crate mods there, but it's not much of a show. But the Legends and the Bandoleros are perfect.
So how long is that? How far away is that from Danbury?
From Danbury, Bethel's like an hour 20 out. So if you were to have a map of like the tri-state area, and you would draw a perfect circle around every single racetrack, my house would be directly in the center.
So it's like an hour and 20 to all of them.
Hour and 20 to Bethel, hour and 30 to Stafford, hour 45 to Waterford, 2 hours from Thompson. I mean, you couldn't get much farther away or closer.
Yeah, right.
I guess,
Yeah,
right. So it's
Right.
double-edged
it's crazy.
sword.
Yeah.
But so we did the Legend cars for 4 years. Ran Bethel for points, ran Stafford for points for a couple of years, and then the
Same car?
we had one car. We bought a package deal of one complete car and one just chassis from a guy in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up getting it, and so we had one car for oval, and then we kind of built up the second car slowly, and they started doing Legends car races at Thompson on the road course. So we decided to do that in the summer of 2016. And man, I wish I did more road course racing as a kid, because it's totally totally different experience than the ovals, because you're flying down that main straightaway at 120.
Oh, dude.
In a Legend car.
Crazy.
They bump draft.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
No, I know. I see.
The PJ Evans loves it.
My
They go racing all the
sister-in-law
time.
got nervous when Brody was running.
Yeah.
Because they are hauling ass up the backstretch, dude. I mean, you're like, and everybody's coming in.
Yeah.
And it was like that when we went down. We went down and ran Charlotte.
Yep.
And through
you
that,
guys did the road course at
yes.
Charlotte? Yep.
And so I had to go sit up, but it was real tricky by the pit area. There was a lot of destroyed race cars through there, man. They're flying.
So when you guys went there, did you guys go onto the actual oval itself a little bit and then back in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when I went down there and did a race. They only had the infield section. They made a mini road course instead of that. I wish I did that other one, because that seems a little bit better racing. But it was pretty technical when I did it, and it was raining, and I wasn't
you
very
know the
experienced.
thing is all those those legend cars, man. The one regret that I had slightly for my kid was not putting her there, because we went right from bandos right to trucks, and the stepping stone, you nailed it right on the head.
You have to learn a whole different discipline. I mean, a bandolero is let's be real, a glorified go-kart.
Oh yeah.
I mean, with suspension.
Right.
And,
Oh yeah.
And then when you go into a full-size body truck, it's completely different.
Listen, my brother tried to go out and run with Brody because he had really two good cars.
Yep.
Two good FZ09 motors in them. They were really good cars.
Yep.
Sean, week in and week out, got his ass kicked. I mean, he's running in the back. He's spinning out.
Wow.
The last time, he's like, and this dude is out mopping up in streeters and taking people to school.
Yep.
Right.
And Brody was just whipping his ass really bad. And he's like, the last wreck, he put it right in the fence. They put it right in Jag's trailer. And he says, we're fixing it, and that's it. I'm done. I can't do this anymore, because, I think it'd be even harder for somebody if they stepped back. I don't know if that's true or not, because, there's so much. I mean, Brody, sometimes we discuss it. He's like, oh, man, he got in what's his name's car this year? The one Rowdy Burns has been driving all year.
Yep.
And Brody kind of struggled a little bit, but he's been out of it for 2 years.
Yeah, I've always wanted to go back and do a
Try
Legends
one?
race, but it's completely different from when I ran. I can't imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
he's got a similar engine package, different tires. Like I had the air-cooled Yamaha,
Yes.
the 1250 engines
Yes.
with the Federal Street European tires, and not the
Yes.
Hoosiers. So like,
Yeah, right.
that would be a totally different game if I tried to go back in one.
Right,
You know,
right.
So after that, you went from Legends, you said, to SK Lights.
SK Lights.
Okay,
Yeah.
because who was it, Sid, that was saying that was like a common pipeline, and I was like so shocked by that.
Yeah, Palmer did.
Yeah. So what really like transfers over, like in terms of the driving style? Like, is it more similar than going from that to like a streeter, like a late model?
Well, I don't know if I'd say that. I think the Legend car teaches you so much about, like I said earlier, about throttle control and about how to manipulate a car to do what you want. When you get an SK Light, they have 10 times as much tire and only 2 times as much power, so you can plant the thing and not worry about having it spin off the corner.
Right.
So like I was saying earlier, a lot of guys that went from go-karts to SK Lights, yeah, the car drove easier.
Right.
Or drove like a full body car, but some guys didn't know how to react, and it took a longer time than guys in Legend cars, because it was so much quicker and so much easier to them, because they had that Legend car experience to be able to just pick it up.
So you're saying in the sense of like going higher up the ladder, there's like skills that you would miss by not driving the Legend car as opposed to just going to the That's interesting.
Absolutely. Wow. Just because of my age too, I had to stay lower, and we spent a longer time working on those core skills.
Of course.
And if we wanted to be able to pursue higher levels of racing, you needed to encapsulate that. So I feel like we did a good job doing that. Come out the ranks.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a little surprising, Rob, that there's so many guys from the SK Lights that were in Legend cars. Maybe it's just because you I just forget how young you are.
Yeah, that's probably.
But I mean,
something to do
like
with
if
it.
I go to like the SK Light champs at Stafford, right?
Right.
Kopsik, he ran legend cars.
Yep.
Mateo ran legend cars.
Yep.
Teddy ran legend cars. And then if you go to the Speedbowl, you got Peter Bennett. He went SK Light racing, didn't he?
Yeah, he still is.
He's running SK Lights right now.
Corner. Mikey Jr. went right to the SKs. Chunulo, Di Matteo, Flannery went late model racing first, but Michael Jarvis is in here. Jeffrey Paul went straight mod racing from Legend Cars.
I mean, the other thing you got to remember is I definitely had like a gap in like my fandom of racing. I feel like from like 2013 through like 18 or 19, I just like wasn't that interested.
Yeah.
So a lot of those guys that were running Legends like during that
You just
time,
don't remember
I
them.
just didn't see it.
Yeah, got it.
Yo, there's been a lot of beast drivers come out of the Legend division.
Yeah, 100%,
God.
man. Yep. I
No, I
agree.
believe it.
I'd
And I'm
like to
hearing it
try
from more
one.
and more people now. I really didn't know that it was like that much like the place to go. A lot of places sort of present it as like this sort of division you can just sort of skip over, like this weird intermediate division, but like a lot of guys are saying that it's the place to learn everything.
And I mean, you can go from street stocks to or trucks or whatever to SKs, but we find it more like it creates better drivers if you go from legend cars to other full bodied stuff.
Yeah. Let's talk about the SK Light career. How long did you do that? You won a championship, right?
I did.
What was that,
2019.
2019?
Yep, we did SK Lights for 2 years. Chasing points just at Stafford both those years. We ran a couple races at Thompson.
What were the car counts like then? Was it like now?
It wasn't as aggressive.
Yeah.
There wasn't 40 every week.
There
but
were a fair amount of cars though.
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
I would say
Okay.
25 to
So
20.
still
Still
solid.
pretty good.
I would say the same number of SKs now you would have
In the SK Lights then?
Lights,
Yeah.
and it would fluctuate. I would say 2019 I started to have more. We would have some counts of 30 some weeks. But yeah,
It was fun to watch you. I remember even when he went to Thompson. Boy, that thing was fast. You guys were fast at the battle with like Narducci and all these guys, dude. Oh, it was so fun to watch.
Brian was really good in SK Light. We had a lot of good battles with him. My first SK Light race, actually, we bought the car from Corey D when he won the championship.
Yep.
Straight off the racetrack, we bought it right for him.
Oh, wow, really?
So that was a really stout piece. That chassis dynamics car was stout.
Yeah.
The motor too was also really good. So that was a good incentive of why we bought it. My first SK Light race at Thompson, I drove a practice the week before just to get my feet wet, and I was not that good. But then we went. The more sessions I ran, I was better and better. Like, all right, I can get behind this. And then they didn't have enough cars. They only had 11. Even back then, they only had 11 that day. So they went to group qualifying. And we forgot to put fuel in the car. So we went out there, and we went out, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna drive my balls off, right? Just sail that thing in there, hit the rev limiter or whatever. And we go out, and as I'm crossing the line on my final lap, I cross the line, I get into turn one, and I hear the stumble.
Oh, it's
And
sputtering.
I'm like, oh no, I don't think I can make it back to the pits or whatever. So I get a push truck, come back to the pits, and my dad's like, has his fist pump in the air. It's like, what's going on? It's like, I won the pole. My first SK Light race.
Wow.
I won the pole.
And you
I was
got
like,
pushed back.
And I got pushed back.
That's awesome.
We did the qualifying strat, super low weight,
Right,
no fuel,
right, it worked.
totally on accident. Totally on accident. Didn't even know because we ran
These guys are
practicing all the day.
in the pits are like, look at these freaking jackasses. Treating this like a tour division.
Literally.
Pushing them in.
Yeah.
This is great.
Shut it off. Yeah. No, totally on accident. So, and then we ran the race, and I didn't have enough experience because it was my first race, and I finished third behind Narducci and Prucker.
Not bad though.
But for the first SK Light, it was solid. And then we went to Stafford, and it was a totally different ball game because you would have 2 or 3 guys at Thompson every week that could win.
Yeah.
But at Stafford, you had 15
Right.
that could week in, week out,
Right.
And it's still
whichever
like that.
one. And it's still like that. But especially when I was racing, I was like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? Because the
Right.
first 5 weeks I finished outside the top 15. I was like, what am I doing here? This is not good. And then it just clicked. We made a couple of setup changes, and I found my groove on the high side, and that was it. I figured if I could just stick my nose off the corner and they had to get off the wall, off a quarter exit, I'd drag them down the straightaway, and that was it. And that was the big thing that I learned in that car is momentum was key, and you couldn't lose it.
Yeah.
So 2018 we won one race at Stafford, and then 2019 we rebuilt everything, just made sure it was spick and span.
Still a CD car?
Still a CD car in 2019. Same car, same motor. Just put it on the jig in the off season, refresh it, make sure everything was good.
Yeah.
And then we racked off 5 wins at Stafford, 1 win at Thompson, and then a championship at the end of the year, which was awesome to be on a list of champions at
For
Stafford
sure,
Motor Speedway.
man.
Oh, yeah. dude.
Absolutely. In the family car, I ran 2 years in SKs.
You did. All
And
right.
I thought SK Lights that first couple races was like a shocker to me, but the SKs were. I honestly still haven't wrapped my head around it. I just can't get the monkey off my back. I don't know what it is. I say it to everybody. It's the most competitive weekly division in the country.
Yeah.
In the country.
Yeah.
That even especially with the new tire.
Could
rule
you
now.
imagine us trying to pick a winner?
Yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, like, seriously.
Literally,
Yeah.
good luck.
Dude, you could be stout
point-
as shit.
The
Yeah.
point leader didn't even win until last week.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, the handicap doesn't even matter.
It doesn't,
Right.
because you can
Right.
just slingshot to the
It
front.
doesn't matter anymore. Like, you could have a good car. Like, I'm looking up handicap right now. There's some good cars starting up front.
I know.
Yep.
It doesn't matter because Mike's coming from
Right.
15th.
Right.
And if there's 3 cautions, hold the
I
on.
did, and you know what I
You
did?
know what
I
I mean?
looked at that hard, and then I said, you know what? I'm not picking an SK this week.
Right.
I'm going to another division.
Right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you just start looking at the
Right.
It's that competitive, and I know you've been out there, and it's been a struggle.
Yep.
And there's been times you've been quick, and then there's times you're mingling around 16th all night.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that are super inconsistent. They have hot weeks and then they have not weeks. And,
Yes.
And the guys that stay the most consistent are the best out there.
Right.
I think the guys, this is just my opinion, it's hard to do what you do. Right? You can't run 4 weeks and take 3 off, then run 2. You can't stay on top of the car and the track like they are.
No.
Right? So it takes you 2 weeks to click on something again, then we're going to Star, or we're doing this and we're not coming back for 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah. So my SK deal right now, we set up a schedule earlier this year that we would run as many races as we can in the front of the season to have advantage of the handicap, and then
Right.
after that we do the big races.
Mm-hmm.
But it obviously, like you've been saying, in between that time we don't have 2 or 3 straight weeks of notebook, and then when we come back,
Never mind notebook.
The track's totally different.
What about
Yeah.
momentum?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you
Exactly.
need momentum means a lot.
Yes.
Right.
Right? I don't give a how good you, I mean, if you pull off a couple lucky top 5s or top 10s, you have a whole different attitude going into
Yeah.
week 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you
everything's
racing
reset.
this Friday for the TC shootout?
Yeah, we had a schedule conflict, so we ran last week instead of this
Instead
week.
of this week? Yeah,
I-
gotcha.
I've raced the SK or the TC13. This would have been my 5th year running, and I've never made it. And I've always wanted to
Damn.
get into the shootout, let
Oh,
alone
right,
win it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
So what made you guys say, all right, we're concentrating on the tour? Like, was there a specific success or good run or that you had with the tour type stuff that made you say, you know what, let's focus on this instead of the SKs?
I feel like we had a really good opportunity to buy a motor from Mike Pettit, the motor that we have now. That was an old Craig Lutz motor that he was selling when he was going through the whole thing with the 46.
Yep.
I remember that very well.
Yep. And so we were able to purchase that motor, and at the time I got called up to drive the 22 for Dan Avery. So that kind of helped us push to get focused on the tour stuff, because we'd be able to run the SK with him,
Yep.
and then have the tour car as the family car instead of running that as an SK.
Right.
So that's what made us push. And then we went to New Smyrna that first year, and we qualified on the pole. And
Dude,
Yeah.
That was like a
and
dream.
we
Right.
finished top 5.
It was like a dream.
remember
I'm
that.
like,
Yeah.
where the hell did Teddy come from?
finished 3rd in points. It was like, all right, wow, we can come up against these guys and
Well,
we
no,
can do
here's
it.
here's the real deal, right? Because I'm a spectator watching from home,
Yep.
right? So I knew you guys. It was just such a feel-good story.
Yeah.
How could you not root for you guys? Were like the little small team
Yeah.
versus these big teams, and you were kicking their ass. it was, you know, like I said to you when I seen you this year, I was slightly disappointed because you guys came out this year, and I kept watching you as much as I could because I enjoy watching you race down there, and it wasn't quite the dream season as you had the year before. But obviously, you guys worked the bugs out of that car because the thing is fast as now.
Yeah, this year wasn't the greatest speed weeks. Obviously, had a lot of mechanical issues and all that. But that's what happens sometimes. You have 5 days in a row. You get on the back foot day one, and it just spirals out of control. It can become the worst week of your life. And this year was obviously bad. We had no good finishes. The year before we blew a motor.
Yeah,
on
but you ran
day.
good. There was some races on long hauls you were running really well.
Yeah.
And then a caution would come out. Something you'd get in the wrong lane, and everything you just worked the last 30 laps for went down the tubes.
Yep.
And the other thing, Diego, you're talking about momentum. Like, there's bad momentum too. Like with the playbook, or even just like the mood of the team. I feel like it plays so much into that, especially if it's just back to back to back days.
Yeah. Wednesday we had a kind of like team meeting, and we were just like, all right, guys, we're gonna flush these days down the drain. We're gonna reset. We're just gonna commit to the last couple days and do the best we can.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work out in the end, but we always have a good time when we're down there.
Yeah.
Like I said, the family connection always helps, seeing everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we just try and have the best time we can.